Here are two scenarios for you. You're a buyer and you're thinking, maybe I should just get into the market. Or maybe you're thinking with all of these interest rate hikes, it's getting a little scary and maybe you should wait because the market's going to collapse. You could be a seller thinking the same thing. Are we at the peak of pricing? Is now the best time to sell the property? Or is it? I keep getting asked this question over and over again. Is the Calgary real estate market going to crash in 2023? My name is Ryan Gillard at eXp Realty, and in this video, I'm going to talk about everything that I'm looking at to determine what is likely to happen with our market going forward. If you have any questions at all about your specific situation, whether that's buying or selling, feel free to reach out. All of my information is in the written description below, and I answer all messages directed my way. So, without further ado, let's talk about what is likely to happen with our market going forward. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about what is going on with our real estate market. So the first point that I like to mention is that real estate is a long-term item. It's not like the crypto market where one day it's up 10%, the next day it's down 20%. Things take a long time to materialize. So it's a good idea to go back into the past a little bit to see where we're likely to go into the future. So everybody knows that Alberta runs off oil and gas. If we go back to like late 2014, the price of oil went from about $120 a barrel, and by 2016 it was down to around $20. So this really hammered our real estate market in Calgary. We had mass layoffs, firings, companies relocated out of the province, companies went under, we had canceled projects, you name it. And this lasted a good 5 years into the pandemic. So going into the pandemic, we had rock bottom prices and we had really high levels of inventory. The pandemic, things were obviously crazy around the world in terms of real estate, but we just absorbed all of the inventory that was lingering on the market, and our prices, they recovered to, I would say, about 2014 levels, maybe slightly higher. Other jurisdictions in this country, they were already at high levels of pricing, and when the pandemic hit, some areas like doubled in value. So areas like that will have a bit of a harder fall with all of these interest rate hikes. But in Calgary, I would say things are more affordable. So it seems unlikely to me that we're going to have as hard of a crash as some of the other jurisdictions that doubled in value, say. So I don't think that we're going to have a full-on crash just based upon affordability. All right, so that brings me to my next point, which is affordability and migration. Unfortunately, this country is becoming so expensive for so many people, specifically in the two provinces of Ontario and British Columbia. The prices have just gone up so high, so quickly, that people are simply being priced out of those two provinces, and they're looking to move within Canada just for more of a work-life balance and affordability reasons. I read a report recently that in Ontario, in the second quarter of this year alone, 50,000 more people have left the province than have moved into it. That is the most since the 1970s. And so where are they going? They're going to places like Nova Scotia and Alberta. So let's talk about Alberta. Why would someone come out here, specifically to Calgary? So why Calgary? Why would somebody move all the way across the country from, say, Toronto, thousands of kilometers, all the way to Calgary? What would cause them to do that? Well, I would say the first reason is it's just what we call the Alberta advantage. It's affordable properties, it's lower taxes, and a lot of jobs. So first things first, like the average price of a home here is about $575 to say $600 is a very typical price you'd see for a single family home. So we've got affordable properties, we've got lower taxes, and a lot of jobs. So Calgary is quickly becoming a tech center, it's a financial hub, and it's the center of Canada's oil and gas energy industry. And there's definitely a renewed optimism in the oil and gas markets. So with that being said, there are a lot of benefits to moving out here, and we've seen it in our population increase. So our population has gone up since the pandemic started by about 65,000 people in Calgary. Our unemployment rate was at a pre-pandemic high of around 10.3%. That has dropped all the way down to 5.3%. Now, how does all this affect the real estate market? Well, we're currently at low listing inventory levels, and with all of these people coming into the city, it's unlikely the market's going to crash. To me, it sounds like seller's market conditions. You have not much for sale, and you have a lot of people moving into the province. That's going to keep our market very tight going forward. If you have any questions at all about moving here from a different province, please check out my video, The Pros and Cons of Living in Calgary. All right, so let's take a deeper look into the oil and gas sector and how it's likely to impact the Calgary real estate market going forward. So everybody knows that in Alberta, the province runs off oil and gas. When the prices are high like they are right now, things are generally pretty good. And when prices are low, things not so great here. So at the moment, prices are high. A lot of companies are making a lot of money. They're employing people. Those employees are getting bonuses. Shareholders are making money. Big projects are being created. The government is making money through income tax and through royalties. So there's definitely a sense of optimism in the oil and gas sector at the moment. Since last December, about 80,000 jobs have been created. A lot of those jobs are in oil and gas. Now, we're not in a full-on boom period, but from what I'm hearing, a lot of these companies are making a lot of money, and they haven't quite been spending a lot of it yet on projects. I expect going into next year and the year afterwards, a lot of these companies will be building new projects. If you combine that with our strong migration levels, if you combine that with low listing inventory levels in terms of real estate, and if you also factor in the tech sector growth, I think our market is poised to be in a bit of a bull run going forward, which will positively affect all aspects of real estate. And with all this, I just cannot see the market crashing with all these positive influences on our market. So moving along, let's talk about the actual real estate market now, sector by sector, and see what's going on. Now, if you listen to the media, they will tell you, oh my goodness, the market's crashing. The sales are down 29% year over year. Things are falling apart. But what they're not telling you is that October of 2021 was the all-time leader. It was the all-time great in terms of October sales in the history of Calgary. So of course we're going to be down from that crazy month of last year. Like, we can't keep that pace up forever. So of course we have to come down. But what they're not telling you is if I go back to like a year, say 2018, wasn't a great year. There wasn't the fantastic October. There were about 1,300 sales in October of 2018. If we go back to this previous month, there were about 1,850 sales. So even though we're down 29% over last year, we're still well above long-term averages. And I'd say our conditions are still pretty strong. With that number of sales and our low inventory, I just cannot see the conditions for a market crash at this time. So let's move along and talk about this sector by sector, and we'll start with the single-family detached market. So in terms of the single-family market, our median price is about $585,000. Our pricing is up about 15% year over year. Now that's a given considering how hot and crazy the start of this year was. So our prices have to be up. That is starting to come down a little bit and level off. And we have about 2 months of inventory at the moment. So what does that mean? Which I think is very important. If we only have 2 months of inventory, if nobody could list a property for sale, it would only take 2 months to sell the remaining inventory on the market. That is still a seller's market. If we go back to 2018, as in the previous example, there was about 5 months of supply at that time. So with 5 months, you'd see rising inventories and you would see lower prices. But with only 2 months of supply, that is still pretty strong conditions. At the start of this year, when there was hardly any inventory and prices were going through the roof, there was about 1 month of supply. So with all of these rate hikes, the interest rate hikes, can it take our inventory from 2 months to say 4, 5, 6? It's hard to say, but again, with our big migration levels, it'll continue to keep our inventory levels down, and I just can't see the market crashing in this circumstance. So moving along, let's talk about the condo sector, and what I would say is the most surprising turnaround that I've seen in real estate in quite some time. We literally just set a record for the number of sales in a month that goes all the way back and beats the old record that was set in 2005. So in October of 2022, we sold 437 condos. The prices are up 23%. The inventory is down 27%, and we only have 2.5 months of supply. If you know anything about Calgary real estate, you would know how poorly the condo market performed for many years. From 2016 to 2020, there were stretches where there was 7 to 12 months of inventory. So again, that means if nobody could list a property for sale, it would take 7 to 12 months to sell everything on the market. For this to come down all the way to 2.5 months, which I would say is a seller's market, maybe seller's market to a bit of a balanced market, it's quite spectacular. So going forward, I expect the condo market to continue to do quite well. If affordability does become an issue, I think people will be moved towards lower price ranges, which a lot of the condos fit into that. And one thing to note is that condo projects take many years to be built. And at the moment, there's just not too much inventory. And for a lot of inventory to come onto the market, I think we're still a few years off from that because they do take so long to be built. If you're a condo owner and you're on the fence whether you should keep it or sell it, feel free to reach out. I think you might be surprised at the conditions right now. They do favor the seller, and you might get a good price for it, and it might sell quickly as well. So again, feel free to reach out. All the information is in the written description below. I'd love to chat. Moving along to townhouses, this is another strong sector of the economy, which is quite surprising. We also just set another record in this sector as well, with 320 sales, and there are only 465 active listings. So there's roughly 1.5 months of supply, which means this is the tightest sector of our economy at the moment. If you are a townhouse owner and you want to sell, my goodness, now is the time. You'll probably get a pretty good price and it'll probably sell very quickly. I would not be waiting for the spring market. If you want to sell, I would look at it right away. We just have strong seller's conditions right now in this sector. To summarize, I don't think our market's going to crash. We just have large numbers of people moving here. We've got strong employment growth and we have low inventory levels. For these reasons, I think our market's going to perform quite well, probably better than most areas of the country. I think my prediction is the market might flatten out. I think the properties that are like lower to average price range will probably do quite well. Maybe some of the higher end stuff might come down a little bit, but I just think we're going to flatten out. It's not the end of the world. I think we're going to perform quite well. I just think it's maybe a return to normal, back to reality. The days of like sight unseen offers 100,000 over price, list like showings lined up out the door, unconditional offers. Those things are not normal, and that's already started to disappear. I just think we're going to be back to reality where maybe it takes a month to sell. Most buyers want 2 months to move in. You've got to price it well. You have to market it well. You have to keep the sellers informed. It's just maybe a back to normal versus a full-on collapse. If you have any questions at all about your specific situation, whether that's buying or selling, feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.